For its part, Hamas released a statement to the press where it confirmed it had reached a deal to end the war. It reads, after responsible and serious negotiations between Hamas and the Palestinian resistance fractions regarding President Trump's proposal in Sharm el-Sheikh with the goal of reaching an end to the genocide against Palestinian people and the occupation's withdrawal from the Gaza Strip, the Islamic resistance movement known as Hamas announces it has reached an agreement stipulating an end to the war on Gaza, the Israeli occupation's withdrawal from it, and the entry of aid and a prisoner exchange. Stephen Cook is a senior fellow for Middle East and Africa Studies at the Council on Foreign Relations in Washington, D.C., and he expressed skepticism about earlier ceasefires agreed upon between Hamas and Israel. I asked him about his take on this ceasefire deal.
Well, of course, it's hard not to be skeptical about things and agreements related to this conflict in Gaza, but there is reason for hope this evening. The president of the United States has engineered at least the first phase of his 20-point peace plan. Israelis are coming home to their families. Israeli hostages are coming home, and Gazans, for the first time in 2 years, will not have to live under war conditions. And there should be lots of aid that will flow into the Gaza Strip. That's the first part of a 20-part plan. Count me as skeptical as I was in January about the implementation of the subsequent 18 points of the plan. Already, Hamas is litigating its disarmament. It is also litigating its role in the Gaza Strip. Just to remind your viewers, Hamas is, by dint of this 20-point plan, is supposed to disarm and is not supposed to have a political role in the Gaza Strip after the end of the war.
Now, one of the other major sticking points was, of course, the release of all Israeli hostages from Gaza. And you have argued in the past that this was the only real leverage that Hamas still had. And in an article you wrote just a couple of days ago, you said that this would mean the defeat of the group at large. So why do you think they agreed to this as part of this deal now?
Well, they haven't. They've only agreed so far to release the 20 hostages that are alive. There's another 28 dead hostages that the Israelis are desperate to bring home as well. Hamas has said that the bodies of those hostages would be released as field conditions permit. I think that means two things. One, they're having a hard time locating all of those 28 bodies. And two, they are demanding that Israel withdraw beyond the line that is drawn in the map in President Trump's 20-point plan.
Now, beyond that, what are the main obstacles that you think could derail this process early on?
Well, I think these are the main obstacles when we get down to negotiations for the implementation of the full plan. Disarmament is going to be very, very difficult. Already, Hamas is indicating that it will not disarm. At most, it will freeze its armaments, no matter, it's not entirely clear what that means, what freeze means, but they are saying they will not disarm. They are also saying that they must have some political role in the Gaza Strip. I mean, basically, the way the document reads, as President Trump presented it to the parties, is a surrender document for Hamas. They have no intention of surrendering, so they're likely to litigate these major points. They have agreed to the hostages being released, and the Israelis have agreed because there is so much pressure on this Israeli government to get these hostages home. And President Trump has lined up with the 75% of the Israeli public that wants to prioritize the return of the hostages. But as I said, there's still 28 bodies that remain in the Gaza Strip.
Now, Hamas has called on the U.S. to make sure that Israel adheres to all points of the ceasefire. And a question that keeps occurring to me is, after 2 years of war, is there enough trust on both sides to ensure that this deal is actually brought across the finish line?
Well, this is precisely the reason why there are still 28 dead Israeli bodies. Pardon me. This is exactly why there are 28 dead Israelis still in the Gaza Strip. It is the only point of leverage that Hamas has at this point. And what Hamas has been seeking is a written guarantee from President Trump that Israel will not restart the war once those hostages come home. President Trump has been willing to give Hamas a verbal guarantee, but not a written guarantee. So there is the possibility that once Israel has every single last one of its hostages back, dead or alive, that the Israelis renege and continue the war. They say they have no intention of that they support President Trump's 20-point plan. But that is clearly something that Hamas is worried about. And that is why they did not agree to a once and for all exchange of hostages.
Now, if that is the case, are there any mechanisms in place or that can be implemented to make sure that the truce is secured in the long term?
Well, this is what, as we say, the devil is in the details. And those are the kinds of things that need to be negotiated. If you look at the 20-point plan, it is a series of principles and notional agreements. But now the modalities of these points need to be negotiated. And this is going to be a long and very uncertain process.
All right, I'm afraid we're going to leave it there. That was Stephen Cook, Senior Fellow for Middle East and Africa Studies at the Council on Foreign Relations in Washington, D.C. Thank you very much for your analysis.